So the second practice of the 6 spiritual practices that I do is called thinking from the end. And this one is very fun one because it's almost like a mental game. But in this video, I want to share with you a little bit more in detail an example of how thinking from the end is different from thinking of the end, and giving you a variation and example so you can begin utilizing this practice that is very, very fun. So thinking from the end. Now, before I explain that concept and the practice a little bit more in detail, what we must understand is the distinction between how we can live as if we are a physical being and how we can potentially live coming from the spiritual essence of who we are. Now, why this is important in this thinking from the end practice? Now, that is because if you truly begin understanding that we are a spiritual being, given the body and the mind, and arrive on this earth plane to create what we desire, it means that in the spiritual plane, if you desire something, it means that the potentiality of the creation in the physical world is already created and exists in the spiritual plane, the realm of absolute. Otherwise, you wouldn't desire it, right? So I often call the urge of the soul transfer into the heart desire, and that is what you want. So we came here to demonstrate. The soul is here, given the body and mind to demonstrate its mission. And the mission and the calling, the purpose that many people talk about, I feel that the purpose in life is to wake up, to remember, and to use this path to help others to wake up. And all the other stuff, the work that we do, the relationship that we form, and health and all that is something that it comes with it. But speaking from the perspective of the soul, why the soul that's already full and whole was given this opportunity to have a physical experience is to demonstrate who we are by forgetting temporarily who we are, by living who we are not. And we have this sort of separation, individualization that happens in the physical material world because we live in this space-time reality. And by recognizing and realizing who we are, we want to demonstrate the unity, connection, and wholeness in this relative realm. I have come to conclude that that is the meaning of the physical world, physical life, a life on earth, and that's what we're here to demonstrate. Now, when you understand this dynamic of the spiritual dimension and the physical dimension, thinking from the end means to begin living from that desire. And begin living from that desire means to internally acknowledge that that is the completion of who you are in the physical world. So, because what you desire is what the soul is searching, right, to create that experience in the physical world, to bring ourselves back to the essence of who we are. So when you have a desire and when you have a vision of what kind of life you like to create, that gives you a fullness, gives you the wholeness, gives you the pure, whatever that expansiveness that you feel when you feel so excited about and feel that sense of lift, is the life that each one of us is meant to live. So the potentiality of that already exists in the spiritual plane. And then when you begin understanding that everything will happening occurs based on the energetic resonance, it means that when you enter into that energetics and when you begin moving into action and when you begin living in that fulfillment of the desire constantly, you will become that person energetically and your surroundings start meeting who you're becoming. So that is the spiritual way of living life on this physical earth. Then the best thing that you could do using your mind is, because in your fourth dimension, which is the mind, emotion, feeling, belief, that's the dimension, fourth dimension, you want to live in that desire fulfilled state. Then if you're living in that pool of the fulfillment of the desire, you want to begin thinking, looking at the outside, living as if you're already there. So let me give you an example. This is perfect because I'll be going out of town this weekend, right? And I'll be going to Venice Beach, right? Now, the Venice Beach is not the place that I will be. I have different reasons that I'm going, but I will be staying around there, right? So I know how Venice Beach look and feel, right? And living from the end, let's say if that's the end, right? And you're in a current situation and you're going to Venice Beach, yeah? You're not thinking about going to the Venice Beach. So I want you to look at this as your desire, right? That destination that you're visualizing is not where you're going, right? Internally, you want to actually be there and live in that space. So take a moment to imagine that you arrive already there in that destination, which is your fulfillment of the desire, right? How would you be thinking thought? What would you be saying to yourself if you are already there? That is the distinction between thinking from the end versus thinking of the end. And what's going to happen is that your 3D physical world that looks different because physically you're not there, mentally and energetically you're already there, right? So the mental game, you want to play with the mind to not to entertain the outside that is different from your destination, but to only accept and appreciate what you feel grateful for about in your current situation, and then constantly go to that feeling of the destination as if you are already there. So what are the thoughts that you will be thinking if you are already there? And then begin entertaining those thoughts. How would you look at some situation that you might be facing if you are already there, and begin constructing thoughts from that perspective? That is what thinking from the end means, instead of thinking of the end. And we want to stay focused on this one because, for instance, I just explained it. So intellectually, you understood the difference. That doesn't mean that you will find yourself constantly thinking from the end. You will realize, and when you notice, you might find yourself, oh, I'm actually thinking of the end. How would you know that you are thinking of the end? When you're thinking about it. So this is gonna be a little secret. When you are thinking from it, you're not thinking about it. You're already in it, right? So if you are already there, what would you see from there? If you are already there, what would you see from there? Other situation. So once this is like almost like a manifestation 101, right? The process of manifestation is you encounter what you don't want, and what you don't want makes you realize what you do want, because what you do want is the opposite of don't want. And manifestation tells us that once you identify what is it that you do want, you want to stop wanting it. Because as long as you're wanting it, you're subconsciously demonstrating the lack thereof. So how can you be in that energy of that wanting stuff, the stuff that you're wanting is already yours? Because it is in the spiritual dimension. We want to transfer that energy and the feeling of wholeness, completion, into the dimension of the mind, using your visual, using your feeling, and using a sense of expansion. And when you begin feeling that it's yours, how would you see the world and what would you be thinking from that standpoint? It's a mental game. So without letting the existing outside situation to get in the way, and to begin going to that visual and then putting yourself in the shoes of what would you feel when you're already in that fulfillment of the desire, and begin practicing constructing thinking from the end. Let me know how it goes. Let me know if you have any questions, and I hope this is helpful. I'll see you in the next video.